Good afternoon. My name is Mercedes Ponce, and I am delighted to bring to you our ninth installment of the series known fondly as Lunch and Learn. I am the Assistant Vice President of Academic Planning and Accountability. I will be moderating today's Lunch and Learn series. I'm particularly excited about this ninth installment, which is rather timely. It is called How to Make Stress an Ally. We will be welcoming shortly Ms. Claire Lidome, who will be our presenter and our thought-provoking leader for today's session. Let me at the onset take this opportunity to thank Dr. Jorge Sumaeta, Ms. Millie Maldonado, Ms. Danai Barata, and also Ms. Sharima Smith for designing and implementing a very compelling series that is dedicated to bringing to the business community, near and far, enhanced skills and competencies. Particularly, we're interested in ensuring that during this period that we have all grown to know as a new normal brought about COVID-19, we are particularly proud of the fact that this continuing education series brings the message of hope, the message of resiliency, and above all, optimism. As many of you know, the series is launched in collaboration with CAMACOL, the Latin American Chamber of Commerce and Industry of the United States of America. On a very personal note, I am delighted that Dr. Sumaeta and Ms. Maldonado have continued to cultivate a partnership with CAMACOL that I can trace back to my early days at the Latin American and Caribbean Center a few decades ago. Now, in order to enhance the experience of the webinar, let me go through some logistical items. First of all, in case you would like to later on go back and review the presentation, please note that it is being recorded. Please keep in mind that while we have muted your microphones, you will have the opportunity later to pose questions through a Q&A tool that you can find at the bottom of your screen. Ms. Lidome will answer questions at the end of her presentation. Let me also bring to your attention the fact that the chat tool has been deactivated. We do have the power to, again, activate the chat tool at the request of our presenter, or to bring you some other information of interest. Please note that once the meeting ends, you will have the possibility to complete a survey. We do encourage that you take a few minutes to complete it. We will be able to send you further information about our programs through the information captured in the survey. Now, let me introduce you to Ms. Claire Lidome. Claire is founder of Creativity and Leadership International, a training firm that specializes in coaching of professionals to ensure that they can maximize their potential, and particularly to empower their mindsets. Claire's firm is also driven by a goal or dedication to help inspire teams to become more engaged and therefore more productive. Claire has held many strategic leadership roles throughout her career in areas or sectors that relate to health, finance, and retail. She also has a very strong portfolio in developing and growing businesses in the US, Europe, and Latin America. Ms. Lidome can boast of having worked in 40 countries, which is an incredible feat. While holding a Bachelor of Science in International Business from Northeastern University in Boston, she is also a certified professional coach and energy leadership index master practitioner from the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. This institute is accredited by the International Coach Federation. Her coaching techniques are based on sound methodologies, including positive psychology and neuroscience. Let me add that I also learned firsthand of the power of coaching, and Ms. Lidome. Ms. Lidome participated in a very compelling program at FIU, Continuing Education and Engagement, launched approximately a year and a half ago, called the Urban Potential Laboratories. All the participants were very commended Ms. Lidome's coaching session as really a way to transform their lives and to position them to be more successful in their career prospects. Claire, I would love to turn this session over to you and look forward to a very thought-provoking presentation. I welcome you to our Lunch and Learn series.
Thank you very much for this introduction. I would like to also thank Dr. Zumaita and Mrs. Maldonado for creating this opportunity, the FIU team in conjunction with Chemical for creating the space for the Lunch and Learn webinars. Today, I would like to talk to you about a really hot topic, a topic about stress. And let me go ahead and start the presentation. I want to show you how it affects the body, especially if it is left unchecked, and how we can manage it better to lessen the feeling of overwhelm and regain some sense of control. By the end of this presentation, my hope for you is to have a better understanding of the urgency to change the habits that are contributing to feeding your stress, identify what you can change immediately to lessen that stress, and start building your resilience by creating your own personalized toolkit to recharge your batteries on a regular basis. Ideally, you can start looking at stress from a different lens, use the information it is giving you in order to make positive changes in your life and take better care of yourself. As we all know, we're living in really challenging times, and everyone has been affected one way or another by the current events. Yet, even though we're all faced with common stressors, every individual has a different way of describing how stress feels to them, and everyone has a different way of reacting to it. Before we start the presentation, I would like to invite you to write down and think about a rating to describe your stress. So the rating would be from 1 to 10, 1 being I don't feel stressed at all, and 10 being I feel completely overwhelmed. And then picking one word that would describe your stress. Lately, in my experience with my clients, people have reported things such as 7, 9, some people have said 11 or more. And they use words to describe stress such as overwhelm, exhaustion, irritated, being on survival mode, tightness, pressure. In essence, we all have a different relationship to stress. The common denominator for most of us, though, is that we feel that we're at the effect of it. This robs us of our ability to respond adequately. It gives us the impression of feeling powerless, which only leaves us room to react. For my part, I look at stress through the lens of energy management, and once we understand how we can better regulate our energy, we can use that to inform how we want to respond to a situation in our lives. Although energy is not visible, it is a feeling that most people are very much in tune with, which makes it a great tool to use as a benchmark to check in with yourself. People know if they feel drained or if they feel super recharged. It's an easy metric to apply in building your personalized toolbox. So let me share with you some statistics pre-COVID. This is from September 2019 from the American Institute of Stress. At the time, they noticed that 83% of US workers suffer from work-related stress. US businesses lose up to $300 billion a year as a result of workplace stress. You can think of high absenteeism, low retention rates, poor performance, sickness, sick leave, etc. And the third important part of statistics that I wanted to share with you is stress causes around 1 million workers to miss work every day. These statistics speak for themselves. Stress is creating havoc in every aspect of our lives, starting with our health, with our families, and in our workplace. So let's take a quick look at what stress actually does to us. Stress is your body's way of responding to any kind of demand or threat. It is the body's reaction to any change that requires an adjustment or response. Although we have a tendency to look at stress negatively, it is the body's way of adapting to any change, being that positive or negative. The body reacts to these changes with physical, mental, and an emotional response. It's a normal part of life. You can experience it from your environment, your body, your thoughts, and even positive life changes such as a promotion, a mortgage, or the birth of a child can produce stress. The stress response is the body's way of protecting you. The idea being that stress is a way for your body to speak to you. Most of us are at the effect of it and only react instead of using it as a piece of information that our physical body is providing us. Stress is the relationship we have with the circumstances in our lives. So let's look at the potentially negative ramifications related to stress if we don't address it. There's two types of stress. There's acute stress and there's chronic stress. According to the American Psychological Association, chronic stress refers to an extended type of stress that impacts people every day of the year and can last for years or even decades. Acute stress is a type of stress that only occurs for a set period of time or only because of certain factors in the environment. This may include the stress you feel after a fight with your kids, a meeting at work, or an encounter with another driver on the road. When stress is first triggered, there are beneficial things happening thanks to the adrenaline hormone. Adrenaline allows us to increase our level of energy in the moment that helps us optimize our response in a given situation. When we don't take action and stress starts to accumulate, that's when it starts to become chronic. The hormone cortisol has gotten a bad reputation for being, one that causes inflammation. While it may cause inflammation over a long period of time, it does have its benefits in the right amount during a very specific period of time. In fact, studies have shown that when someone experiences a trauma, the cortisol in this case helps lessen the post-traumatic stress disorder because in the moment it helps the system adapt and adjust. The problem is when the stress is chronic and the cortisol is being developed by the body on a constant basis. So what happens to the brain? What are the effects on the brain? The late Dr. Bruce McEwen talked about how the brain reshapes itself based on the release of stress hormones in chronic stress patterns. The logical part of the brain can actually atrophy and lose its ability to navigate stress effectively when it's exposed to stress for a long period of time. The professor distinguishes between three different types of stress. He distinguishes between positive stress, tolerable stress, and toxic stress. The positive stress arises from the exhilaration of a challenge, which there is a satisfying outcome from. This gives a sense of mastery and control and generates self-esteem. Tolerable stress, which arises from adverse life events in a context of good emotional and social support, generates also a sense of mastery, control, and self-esteem. Toxic stress, on the other hand, is associated with a lack of self-control and with poor social and emotional support. When he concentrated his research on these three brain areas, he focused on the prefrontal cortex, which is the key decision-making, self-regulation of behaviors, mood, and so on, and noticed how the stress response helped close off the stress. The hormone, helped close off the stress. The same is for the amygdala, which regulates the emotions like fear, anxiety, aggression, also promoted a stress hormone response to manage the stress. And the hippocampus which is important in assessing the context, recall, and spatial memory, was also an important factor in the stress hormone development. His research showed, for example, if we take the hippocampus, that region is influenced by the stress hormone cortisol. And the first of many subsequent observations in which his lab showed that circulating hormones can enter the brain to change gene expression and ultimately alter basic neurological functions like mood, decision-making, and memory. So over a long period of time, chronic stress can shrink brain networks, thus affecting areas of the brain, for example, used to problem solve. The part of the brain that should actually be able to help you take a deep breath, to help us feel like everything is going to be okay, that we can take some perspective, has lost its ability to help us gain that perspective in a challenging situation. The brain has less and less recollection of how it feels to be resilient because it's lost its ability for that resilience, and instead has been replaced with the feeling of being able to more easily remember what it feels like to feel overwhelmed, uneased, and discomfort. So what is stress trying to tell you? I'd like to look at this from the traditional Chinese medicine perspective. When it comes to emotional stress, traditional Chinese medicine shows that each emotion is associated with an internal organ. And when one emotion is too intense, it impacts that organ's ability to function properly. This is because each emotion impacts the circulation and direction of energy in the body. In essence, our psychology affects our body. Have you ever heard someone say they had a visceral reaction to something? The reason for that is that our emotions are experienced physically as much as they are mentally. So I like to look at this correlation, which again speaks for itself. They say that the emotion of fear, which is also interpreted as anxiety, insecurity, isolation, affects your kidneys. And that can result in poor memory, low back pain, and night sweats. The emotion of sadness, also associated with grief, regret, or nostalgia, affects your lungs. And that can result in chest tightness, skin problems, restless sleeping. The emotion of worry, interpreted also as obsessive thinking, dwelling, intense focus, is associated with the spleen in your body. And that can result in chronic fatigue, loss of appetite, and digestive issues. And finally, the emotion of anger, interpreted also as frustration, irritability, or jealousy, to name a few, affects your liver. And that can result in stiff neck and shoulders, high blood pressure, tendinitis. Being able to identify the emotion that is causing you stress will be the first step in raising awareness around reducing the effects of that stress on your body. So how does stress affect you? No one knows themselves better than you do. You're the expert on yourself. As such, it's your responsibility to understand what motivates you versus what triggers you. If you take a closer look at the word responsibility, you can break it down to show its true meaning. Responsibility. Your ability to respond to a situation. It's about focusing on the aspects of reality that you can influence instead of feeling victimized by circumstances that you cannot control. It's about being the main character in your life. As much as it's common sense, it may not be common practice. A quick tip to help you shift your energy is to change perspectives about a given situation. Instead of asking yourself, why is this happening to me? If you apply the responsibility concept, it would entail for you not to take it personally. So for example, it does not rain on you. It just rains, period. Instead of blaming the rain, you carry an umbrella to stay dry when it does. If you don't and you get wet, it's because you didn't prepare yourself. Replace your negative thought by asking yourself, what can I do when this happens? This might seem like a really simple example, But I really encourage you to apply this exercise to every situation that you find challenging. It will immediately shift your energy and help you find a more empowering perspective. Instead of blaming an external factor, you regain control of the situation, which takes you out of victim mode immediately and puts you back in the driver's seat. You have the power to choose how you want to react, think, and feel in every moment of your life. The more you understand yourself, the easier it is to regain control of your thoughts, emotions, and energy. So what are some tools that you can use to better understand yourself? Stress is what happens when life's demands exceed our actual capacity. I love to use this exercise with my clients. The challenge that we all face is the time capacity, trying to get as much done in the time that we have. When I do this exercise with my clients, we look at the demands in their life and take stock of where they currently stand. When we do, they do the same analysis in regards to the actual capacity that they have. Finding the breaking point gives them a lot of insight on what they need to work on, prioritize, and let go of in order to make more time for themselves. This gives them a clearer picture as to how they might have unrealistic expectations versus what they can actually accomplish in a given amount of time. The perspective gained from this is truly empowering and allows for a better management of both your time and your energy. Another exercise I like to use is this stress performance curve, according to the psychologists Yerkes and Dodson. The pressure performance curve that you see shows how given in the right amount of stimulation can motivate you to perform under a positive amount of stress during a certain period of time. Given the right amount of stimulation, the plasticity of the brain has the potential towards feeling connected, confident to perform a task. This is the point of your highest energy output. Some examples are preparing for an exam, a meeting, an athletic competition. It's a short burst of stress or energy that helps us perform for a specific task. Not enough stimulation puts people at the beginning of the curve here on the left, in the boredom phase. Your performance is obviously poor. You are not stimulated, therefore there is no creativity or innovation happening. The next phase is the comfort zone. That's where the performance is steady, carrying out the tasks you are confident in performing. After that, the curve will show you where stimulation is considered a positive dose of stress to help you face a specific activity at a specific given time. It's the stretch zone. This is the zone of maximum performance when you are energized and focused, ready to meet a new challenge. But it's unrealistic to think that you can remain in the zone indefinitely. You need to go back to the comfort zone to recharge your batteries, to sustain your performance long term. If your stress hormones continue to be produced by your brain, this is where your stress curves starts showing signs of fatigue. This is called the strain zone. You're tired and start showing signs of poor judgment and decision making. And finally, if none of the earlier phases have been acknowledged, the individual enters the overwhelm zone. The signs are exhaustion, serious health issues, and potentially burnout. As we mentioned earlier, if your stress becomes chronic, then you can find yourself in the far right of the curve, where the individual shows signs of exhaustion, serious health issues, and gets dangerously close to the burnout. Some tips that you should take into consideration as red flags can be being late for meetings on a regular basis, missing appointments, most of the time personal appointments, not having enough time to take care of yourself, go to the doctors, carve out an hour to do something you like, go to the gym, take a class, read. A lot of high achievers have a tendency of saying, I don't have time to go to the doctors. Well, guess what? That's a sign that you're overexerting yourself, and it will not be sustainable over time. Some other tips, some other signs that you might want to consider are not taking a good lunch break or not taking smaller breaks during the day. procrastinating before starting a project, feeling irritated. I would encourage you to take a closer look as to what resonates for you and write down the warning signs that you see for yourself. Then think of what the ideal mix of positive stress and high energy looks like for you. That will be your optimal performance zone. Applying this to yourself will help you understand where your sweet spot is and at what point your performance is optimal. Another tool I really like to use are assessments. They are invaluable in accelerating your self-awareness by the richness of the insights that they are designed to provide. The energy assessment, for instance, measures one's overall energy level before starting a task, project, or activity. An individual gains invaluable insight on the thoughts, beliefs, and emotions that dictate how much energy they have available with respect to the specific project they're about to start. It's a great way to check in before starting that project to make sure that you're in alignment with your priorities. In identifying the factors that are influencing that energetic state, individuals get a sense of the amount of stress that might be surrounding the project. The stress is not often perceived, but instead can be masked by either excitement or by procrastination. And when it's masked with excitement, it obviously throws people off. I was really excited about this project. How come, halfway into it, I feel like my fuel is running out? Well, that's because there were insights already showing stress reactions to this project that you weren't able to see. So the assessment gives an indication of how successful one's performance might be given the level of energetic engagement. The mindset assessment measures a unique lens of self-awareness and emotional intelligence, two key ingredients to develop the skills to build resilience, optimize your energy, and better manage stress. It speaks to four important areas: your level of engagement, which shows how emotionally and intellectually involved you are, or whether you're simply going through the motions. It speaks to your level of awareness. It understands the lens or filters you've developed and how this is influencing how you see your reality. It speaks to your level of response ability to respond to life's challenges. It looks to help you understand the underlying thoughts, beliefs, and emotions that dictate what you do and how you do it, and how that influences every area of your life. It shows you the lens through which you see life dictates how you respond to life's events. That was a little confusing. It shows you how you respond to life's events based on your belief system. It's the mindset assessment. And then finally, the fourth pillar that it shows is it speaks to the results that you're getting. Your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs inform your behavior. Your behavior drives your performance. By evaluating your performance, we can address the underlying mindsets that led to those results. And then finally, the resilience assessment. The resilience assessment measures how your stress is activating your brain. It brings light to who the culprits might be fueling the anxiety, the negative emotions, and any other factors that contribute to keeping you on high alert, incapable of relaxing your brain. It allows you to develop a strong sense of self-awareness around why you react to stress the way that you do. It informs you of any behaviors that might be contributing to you not getting the results that you want. So let's start talking about Toolkit for stress. And this is, now that we have seen how important it is to manage stress to avoid serious health consequences, and we have some exercises to better appreciate what your stress tolerance is, I recommend for you to build your own personalized toolkit. This is a fun thing to do, and it's also a great way to build resilience. So in order to do that, your first decision should be to make a conscious choice to make time. For some people, just that already stresses them. And if you feel that that's the case, or if you feel that you find yourself already making excuses, but I don't have time, how am I going to make time? Whatever comes to mind that's already feeling like it's creating resistance, it's probably because you're not ready. And it's completely okay. The change process is just that. It's a process. And at least you have the tools and you know that you're going to have to make that conscious decision. You're going to have to make that commitment. But maybe you're at the point where you just need to plant a seed before you can make that commitment. For those that are ready to make the commitment, you want to make a decision and a commitment to yourself that you want to start exploring how to make certain changes in your life. The second step is to look at how you can create routines for yourself. We'll talk a little bit more in detail about that afterwards. And the third step is to have the awareness that you will want to adopt a holistic perspective. Everything is connected, your mind, your body, and your soul. And so you will want to introduce self-care strategies at all three levels. So my recommendation is for you to create your personal action plan. Now that you're committed to creating your own custom toolkit, you'll want to personalize it. By now, we've established that stress informs the body for us to make adjustments to better adapt to life's events. If we use the information to our advantage, it will help us in defining what doesn't work for us and start looking for alternatives. Now, as we saw at the beginning of the presentation, if we suffer from chronic stress, we must first stop the hijacking of our brain to allow it to recuperate for it to allow to recuperate the problem-solving capabilities that our brain is capable of. By creating this personal action plan, you can identify where your energy is going and to what extent it is either depleting you, far left, or recharging you at the far right. So you can ask yourselves questions such as, how do you use the information stress is giving you to understand your different levels of energy throughout the day? Well, I wake up and I'm fully charged, and by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I have no more energy left. What's happening between the time that you wake up and by mid-afternoon that you have no more energy? When do you feel completely drained versus fully charged? What events drain you versus charge you? And how often do you feel that you need to recharge? 4 simple questions. How do you use the information that you've gathered to figure out how stress affects you? Understand how it affects you throughout the day? And when do you need to recharge? By shedding some light on these questions, it will allow you to quickly find some relief and help your brain from making more of the stress hormone, giving your body a much needed break. Another fun little tool I like to use is to create your own stressometer, your very own stress thermometer. Here it's about digging a little deeper to understand why the events stress you. What is it about the event that stressed you? To what level does it stress you and why? This has a dual purpose. It will help you identify what are the events? Are they personal? Are they work? Is it a certain person? Is it according to a value? What is the event that is stressing you? And how does it stress you? Does it stress you a little bit, completely, a lot? Again, the whole point here is to build that awareness for us to know ourselves better. The more self-awareness you have around what stresses you, the more you will be able to build a more resilient mindset that will allow you to bounce back more quickly and more effectively in the face of challenge. The other thing is you might anticipate a strategy. You might anticipate an event if you know it's going to stress you, or you might take different measures to not be so exposed, or find hobbies that will help you deal with the stress if you don't have a choice but to be exposed. The point is, once you know what's going on, it's much easier to find things that will help you manage your energy, protect your energy, and reduce the levels of stress. So how do you recharge? We talked a little bit about the routines, right? You have the tools to help you raise awareness around how you react in different situations, what causes you stress, and how you behave when you feel stressed. So the natural question that poses itself is, how do you recharge? Isn't it ironic How we are diligent about charging our phones, yet we barely recharge our own batteries. The best way to do that is to establish a routine, especially in these difficult times. Routines are essential because they create a sense of normalcy and control in our lives. This sense of control then allows us to more easily manage the challenges that come our way. Some ideas to recharge: exercise, meditation, walking outside. We're in Miami. Let's take advantage of the nature that surrounds us. Reading, taking a bubble bath, painting, journaling, gardening, cooking a healthy meal, enjoying your favorite hobby. Pick one thing that you don't already do and do it at the same time each day. It will help anchor your day and provide a welcome break. Also, having something to look forward to will make you feel good and help you disconnect from other mentally taxing thoughts. So whether you opt for a morning routine or a night routine, some of the most effective hobbies people like are intention setting, finding a few minutes to meditate, writing down what you're grateful for, and listening to relaxing music before going to bed. In terms of lunchtime, I would encourage you to not stick around in front of your computer. Take your lunch, whether it's an hour, whether it's 45 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is, take a few minutes to disconnect. If you don't disconnect, you will not have the bandwidth or the creativity that you need to continue working at your optimum level. All these actions that we just talked about will have a positive effect on your brain. And when you can slowly integrate them in your life, you will start noticing a real difference. So how do you short circuit stress? You take action immediately. By taking these steps, you short circuit stress and help your brain get back to its normal state of being without any constant production of the stress hormone. The more you apply a positive action, the quicker you will see results. We haven't talked about breathing. It's simple, and you can apply it anywhere, anytime. As soon as you feel the onset of a stress reaction, take 3 deep breaths to the count of 5. Your brain will get oxygenated, your heart rate will slow down, and you will be able to think more clearly. These simple yet very effective actions are very often overlooked and dismissed when they actually have been proven to help short circuit the onset of stress. Again, common practice is not common sense. Also, which I thought was interesting, studies have shown that goals are easier to reach if they're specific. I'll walk for 30 minutes every day rather than I'll get more exercise. You should also limit the number of goals you're trying to reach. Otherwise, you may overtax your attention and willpower, and it's not enough just to have a goal. You need to have a practical way of reaching it. For example, if you're trying to quit smoking, have a plan for quelling the urge to smoke. Have a bottle of water nearby, have a sugarless gum nearby, or practice a new breathing technique. It does take work to manage stress and build resilience, but it's at everyone's fingertips. Consistent practice is key. It's not about achieving perfection. It's about making that conscious choice to make time and to invest in yourself. It may be helpful to think of resilience as a muscle that must be trained consistently in order to achieve results. It may be difficult to change thoughts and behaviors, but as with exercise, it does get easier over time. Creating new habits is a process. It's not an event. Be kind to yourself and give yourself the space to integrate positive change in your life. And finally, and more importantly, make it fun. Choose a happiness challenge, for example. There's a ton of fun things on Facebook or an app that you can find. Get a partner, learn a new skill. But the point is, make something fun so that you look forward to it and you disconnect from the stress that's currently draining your energy. So another success measure is to get an accountability partner. There are fun challenges you can do with a friend. Doing it together is much better. You can start a physical activity with a partner. Learn a new skill with a teacher, a mentor, a coach. Choose something that you will look forward to and find yourself an accountability partner that you can get help from to help you through this project, especially when you don't feel like going Your accountability partner will be there to push you, and you'll take turns. The American Society of Training and Development found that people are 65% likely to meet a goal after committing to another person. And their chances of success increase to 95% when they build an ongoing meetings with their partners to check in on their progress. So find that accountability partner that works for you to help anchor your intention, your efforts, and before you know it, it will become a new habit. In conclusion, the quicker you take action, the quicker you start working on reversing the effects of stress. There are many tools at your disposal that you can apply. Just choose the ones that work for you best. If you feel too overwhelmed or if you feel that there's something else going on, don't hesitate to reach out to a professional. Just avoid burnout as much as possible. Thank you very much. So let's see.
Hi, Claire. Thank you very much for that insightful presentation.
Absolutely.
I believe we have a series of questions. First of all, I really appreciated the focus on tips to help us circumvent or derail stress. I believe, though, these tips are really critical to our success, not only personally, but professionally. All right, so let's take a look at some of the questions and let's probe a little bit deeper into into the subject matter. So really, realistically, how long does it take to create a new habit and to sustain the habit?
So I think all of us have heard at one point or another that it takes 21 days to create a new habit. That's wishful thinking. The idea is to be hopeful to start a habit, but actually there's a study by Philippa Lally, who is a researcher at the University College of London, who found that you start seeing results after 2 months, 66 days to be exact. But then depending on the person's personality, the person's ability to react to stress, it can take anywhere between 2 to 8 months to actually really ingrain that new habit. Having said that, they have found actually very promising a promising note here, which is it's not because you don't do the habit every day, or it's not because you might miss out on doing it sometimes, that the habit process making is sabotaged. Meaning, if you keep going for a few months, you eventually will get the results that you're looking for. So if you can do it for 21 days and you find that it works for you, then go another 21 and go another 21 until at this point it really makes sense to you as a person to incorporate something that's better for you.
Thank you. I like the concept, the power of change, and particularly through the power of pause or being able to disconnect. So thank you very much. Now we have another question. You spoke about assessments. So from your vantage viewpoint, which assessments would you recommend as a starting point?
So it really depends on what you want to focus on. We talked about, so the energy assessment, that one really focuses on if you're starting a new project, or if you find yourself at a fork in the road and you're not really sure which decision to make or how you feel about going into investing your time and energy in that project, it really helps to try to find out if there are any subliminal or unconscious insights that you're overlooking. You might, feel overexcited, but you have a tendency of seeing that energy fizzle out. Or on the contrary, you're noticing that you're procrastinating and there's some form of resistance and you're trying to find out why. Then I would suggest to do the energy assessment to figure out if your performance is going to be optimal. If, on the other hand, you're really trying to understand how you create your life, how your paradigm, values, upbringing really informs how you make your decisions, then I would recommend the mindset assessment, because that's going to give you an understanding of the results that you're getting based on your belief system. And then the last one, which is the one that will help you understand the resilience, It'll help you understand the culprits that may be sabotaging you, that are increasing that stress level. And that'll give you good insights as to understanding what are the emotions that are stressing you. What are the emotions that are causing this constant high stress, high alert that is completely impeding you from having a normal performance, if you will.
Could you elaborate a little bit upon the power of meditation to combat the stress?
Well, meditation has many different forms. And what I mean by that is the foundation, and I'm not a meditation specialist, so I'm just going to talk about the basic elements, which is the basic element of breathing. Breathing just by itself will calm down the famous amygdala, which will calm down the stress hormones from being produced. And depending on the meditation that you choose, you listen to relaxing music, or you listen to a guided meditation that will help you maybe visualize something, or that will set positive intentions. So all those different factors, first of all, take your focus out of the event that's stressing you. So that's number one, your focus is taken away. Number two, you're disconnected from the stress that you're feeling, and you're able to actually stop thinking about it. So your stress level calms down. And then, of course, the benefit of whatever you're doing in terms of the meditation kicks in. And the more often you do that, the more you're going to find that normal level that we should all be at. The stress is just to help us get through a specific event, not to be there on a chronic basis. The fact that it is there on a chronic basis shows us that we're not doing enough self-care to come back to that regular performance state, if you will.
There has been a lot written about sleep and the fact that sleep deprivation really leads into chronic illnesses and also into lack of mental agility. Could you comment a little bit about sleep from your experience and your learnings, and how we can really set our lives in order with more sleep and routine sleep?
So when people ask me, what is something that I can do right away? Well, the breathing exercise is one, because you can do it anywhere. But the other one is sleep. Most of us don't even realize how much sleep we need. And we may sleep 5-6 hours when in reality, our body needs maybe between 7 and 9. I'm talking for those that are sleep deprived. You do have people that don't need much sleep, but most of us are sleep deprived. And what that happens is you're already waking up fatigued. And when you start accumulating that fatigue, you're also starting the process of the cortisol and the stress hormones, which means that you're already starting to not be able to think with lucidity, to not be able to problem solve as best as you could actually do it. So sleeping is the number one key ingredient, if I can say it that way, that will make people feel better. And maybe, this is something that's maybe not so common in the United States, but for example, a lot of people are working from home now. And if you have an hour lunch break, maybe a 20-minute cat nap will do wonders for you, right? So this is something that you can take into consideration immediately, and that will do wonders on so many levels for your body.
I think we have one final question. If you can talk a little bit about the habit of journaling, and also the role that gratitude plays in really giving one a different perspective on life.
Absolutely. If you think about our focus, the brain will focus on what we're thinking about. So for example, this is a famous example I use in my classes. When you think about buying that red car and you decided you wanted to buy that red car, all of a sudden you're going to see red cars everywhere. Well, it's not because you decided to buy that red car, then all of a sudden everybody has a red car. It's just that your brain has focused on that. And so it's going to prove to you that what you're focusing on is out there. So it's the same idea with journaling. When you start focusing on the things that you're grateful for, when you start focusing on writing, how your day was and what you're grateful for, what you feel blessed about, you're again changing your focus from feeling like you had a bad day to, well, I'm actually very grateful, such and such and such happened. So it's really about changing the focus, and it's as easy as that to change this, to reduce the stress hormone from being produced. That's why this is a really hot topic, and it's just a matter of discipline. And I know that's a difficult word for a lot of people, but really I think the message that I want people to take away is that even if you do it 5 minutes a day, whatever you decide to do, journaling, being grateful, or breathing or meditating or listening to music, even if you do it 5 minutes a day, you're going to start seeing changes as long as you do it regularly. And ideally, if you can pop it in a few times in the morning, a few times in the afternoon, the more you do it, the quicker you'll see results.
There was a comment that I would like to share with you also. One of our participants noted that he or she has, realized, or in his or her experience, that stress does expose one to catching diseases quickly. Can you also, elaborate on this?
Sure. Well, what happens is stress reduces your immune system, right? So by reducing your immune system, you're much more vulnerable to illness, whatever that illness may be for you. So that's why it's so important. Between the fact that stress atrophies those areas of your brain that are used for problem solving, for memory, for so many things, and it according to Chinese medicine, it will affect, and of course regular medicine, it will affect different organs in your body. It reduces your immunity. So definitely something to consider in these times.
Thank you very much for these wonderful, again, tips and insights.
Thank you.
We are very appreciative of your support always. Let me also close by thanking Dr. Susan Himberg, who has always supported our continuing education unit in our aspirations, in our programming. Although Jorge Sumaeta unfortunately was not able to be with us today, he will continue the role of moderator next week when we plan to bring you a program in Spanish, and let me translate for you, that asks a very bar question. What happens after the mega crisis? And how will we be able to compete or survive in a period of hyperconvergence? The presentation will be given by Mr. Ricardo Torres Oliva. This webinar, however, will be in Spanish. Claire, would you like to close the program for us today?
Absolutely. I want to thank you all. I want to thank the FIU team for everything that they do. I think that in these times to offer these webinars is a wonderful idea to support people. And I know that there's many more resources that FIU has, and I encourage people to reach out because there's a lot of solidarity and help if need be. And if there's any questions that haven't been asked, or if anybody would like to reach out to me, please do so. We're here to help each other out.
Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us. And once more, let me thank Dr. Sumaeta, Ms. Maldonado, Ms. Barata, and Ms. Smith for designing a very compelling session and for leading us during the last almost 10 weeks of this wonderful program known as Lunch and Learn. I congratulate all of you lifelong learners and hope to see you next week, same time, same place. And we wish you the best. Stay safe. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.